I put up here how to turn trauma into triumph. I feel like a lot of conversation happens, and I talked to this with my wife because she's a therapist, right? So, and I said this 2 months ago, y'all. You should remember. It's kind of a warning. Heed to the warning in November, so guys. Next couple months things get funky. Our heads get funky. Sometimes it's holidays. Sometimes it's the fact that you're inside 24/7. But if something happens chemically, I don't know if you have a routine, you get out of your routine, because that happens to me a lot. When I get out of my routine, I start eating unhealthy. I'm not getting cardio in. I'm not working out, so I'm not pumping all these, endorphins and all these natural dopamines and right? I get more lethargic, and then when those things happen, and I get lazier. When I get lazier, I get moodier. I get shorter. I get less ambitious. My drive, like everything changes, right? That's why, when we go out of town, I'm more irritable. I'm more short or something like that. But I like to bring attention to that, because I don't think it's just me, because I talk to a lot of y'all men in here, and I'll see some parallels, and I'm like, no, it's just a thing. Like this is in the air every year. So as you come into this new year, it's also kind of a tough time for some people, because maybe they weren't happy with the previous year. Maybe they weren't happy with the last 10 previous years, right? Maybe you're in a situation, maybe everything looks good from the exterior. Your job's great, your family's, everybody's great. We've got a beautiful picture, out here in front of the church and in front of the signage, and we're all that. But inside, in your interior, you feel restlessness. You feel like this discontentment. You feel like there's a gap between who you are and who you want to be. It's like this bridge that you can't build, or this destination that you just can't reach to. But it's this unsettling feeling that it's not about money, and it's not about, do I love my spouse, or do I love my kids, or am I content? Is this the right church? It's just like this unsettling feeling that you just cannot figure out what it is. And the problem that I run into, is that it takes a lot for a person to decide to battle those feelings and to question those feelings, and not just say, well, it just is what it is. I'm like, well, that's the most non-ambitious statement anybody could ever make. If you I bought Carter a book, and bought me a book. I haven't read it. Some people told me about it recently, and somebody in here I really think told me about it. But it's about like these superior athletes, right? They're just built different. Like they'll lose a game, but they're not cool with it. I heard a video yesterday. Somebody says, if you don't practice like you play, then you'll never play good. You know what I'm saying? Like there's no off season, right? Well, as men, like there's no off season for us. So sometimes we do have to have that dog in us. We do have to have that drive in us, because we have the responsibilities of upholding who we are as people, but we also are responsible for somebody. If you don't have a family, you still, by nature, you find yourself responsible. Some guy may say, well, I'm not married, I don't have kids, nothing relates to me. But then like their dog is like their everything. I'm like, well, everybody has something in a sense, right? But I wanted to talk about turning trauma into triumph. When you think about trauma, that's like the biggest thing. There's so many people that deal with trauma. As I talk to men over these years, and on my own personal stuff, trauma is very common. But we don't call it trauma, things that we went through in our life, because we were conditioned to believe that it's normal and it's acceptable. And I would encourage you, if you went through, and you have, in some capacity, you've went through something, do not allow yourself to be conditioned to think that you deserve those things, or you deserved that, or it is what it is, or you're conditioned to rub dirt on it and move on and shut up. Now, I'm all about that. I mean, the kid falls down, I'm like, I don't have a hard time now, Carter can tell you, like with our little nieces and nephews, because I just can't, all the crying and whining, I'm just like, oh my God. Like, and I'm trying not to, you know how you have to be careful, and I'm not that guy, but you have to be careful not to tell everybody how to parent their kids when yours are older, you know? Because you're like, well, when my kid was old, I'd have lit that, you know. And I would have. But yeah, you can make some, because we ain't in that generation anymore. Because somebody, you know, somebody's like, I whip him all the time and he doesn't act right. And I'm like, well, like, you know, I'm family. Like, I'm here all the time and we're together. And I've never seen a kid take a whipping. I was like, if you want to go right and do it, though, I can take care of that for you. And, but in our minds, guys, we're conditioned to think that trauma or things that we go through is something that we should accept. I'm not saying we don't accept it, but it doesn't have to become our identity, because where we go through a trauma, sometimes that's really a trial at this point. Does that make sense? The Bible's full of it. What we're looking for is we don't want the thing that the devil will take away from you. In John 10:10, he comes to steal, kill, and destroy. The thing that he will take away from you is you'll take away your try. Your trauma will take away your try. Where you're like, I don't even want to, right? I ain't doing, you know, like it just takes away that deal. If we re-gauge our way of thinking, and you start doing everything for the purpose of God, it changes your ambition to accomplish your goal. Because it's no longer a goal, it's a commitment. It's a covenant with God. If I tell God I'm going to be at Fight Club every Thursday, I've already done that. I can't bail now. Right? I've overcommitted. But what I overcommit for now glorifies God. What I used to overcommit for glorified Ryan. I had something to receive out of the end of it, financially or something. Now there's nothing. Now I'm investing nonstop, right? I don't look for anything besides that was a binding agreement between he and I can't stop now. I mean, I'm in it. Jobs are being dictated because of it. Relationships, friendships, other opportunities at the church, because we're committed because of the fruits that come from that. But the trauma will take away your try. That's kind of the period we are now. It's the same way with marriage. Lindsay and I did marriage counseling recently. So, there's something hidden. Yeah, I didn't communicate good enough, evidently. I thought one sentence was sufficient. Why tell the whole story when I can tell you everything about 5 words? Right? Y'all know what I'm talking about. Well, my wife's a therapist. Every conversation's in 50 minutes. I burned, Carter will tell you, I burned Emma 2 nights ago. I just thought it was funny. I was doing nothing, and Carter was, me and him was sitting there on the couch watching something. And Lindsay come in, she had a hard day. I knew she was in therapy mode, and I said, hey, you need to go holler to Emma. And she goes, why? I said, her and her boyfriend, they're kind of into it. And I think it's Emma being rude or something. Because, anyways, and Carter looks at me, and they literally just went and got dinner. Like there's nothing going on. And Lindsay come in and got settled in, and then Lindsay disappeared. And I said, hey, where'd Lindsay go? Where'd Mom go? He said, she went upstairs. And I was like, and then Lindsay came back downstairs. She goes, there's nothing going on with Emma. And Emma's like, Dad! You know? So they conversate different. But I'm gonna tell you, if I remove my covenant, which is my marriage, and I remove my covenant with God and my commitment to that, my try can disappear because I allow things to dictate those. Like, I don't even want to have those conversations. I don't want to put in that extra effort. And it could be with our job. It could be with getting out of a hole. It could be getting out of a pit. It could be getting through an addiction. It could be getting through a divorce. It could be through financially, bankrupt, been there, done that. I mean, I could, it's that covenant with God and that conversation with God, and that's why reading your Bible is so important. what I wanted to share with you this morning is these are stories here that I've printed out here that shows you that everybody that God used throughout the Bible were guys that went through trauma and triumphed through it. But they didn't do it. It wasn't them that did it. It was God through them. Because when you remove God from their situation, they were nothing. They were people you would not have hung out with or talked to or associated with. But them plus God made them a warrior. Made them people that they could be not only mentioned in the Bible, but literally written chapters around that's been studied for thousands of years because of people that have went through tough stuff, overcame it through God, and used it for His ministry and His glory. You say, well, how do you know there's a God? How do you believe in faith? We talk about this because there's proof and there's evidence that if you look at my personal life, that the things I could not transition to the man I am today had not God been involved in it. Because if you look at the pattern of my life without God, I really tried to be a really good guy. I would think some people probably said I was a good guy, right? I really tried to be a good husband or a good father or a good financial guy or a good whatever. But good was the top end. You know what I'm saying? Like if it was a scale of 1 to 10, 5 was the top. I could never reach 10. Because without God, I could never really see my full potential. Because I was trying to do it by a guide that I was given by family and conditioned to a way that really has dictated more of my life in a negative way than a positive way. Right? I wasn't given a perfect manual or perfect direction or a perfect raising and all these wise words when I was young and all these means. No default to them because they weren't either, right? But somebody says, well, I just don't know, man. I just don't know. I'm like, well, cool. Hang out with me or let me take you to some guys. Let me show you where God still does miracles today. Let me let you talk to this guy or that guy. Let me let you talk to this guy or that guy. Because they'll tell you real quick, like, dude, 100% there's God. If I don't have Him, I need to go to heaven now, today. Because I cannot continue life without Him. That's how dependent I am. When you look at trauma, it's also not a season, guys, that you have to live in. And sometimes the world tells us that this is just who we are. That's just who you are. You know, Jason, that's just who you are. And stuff like that makes me so mad. Because you don't know who I am. You know what? I don't know who I am. And I don't know where I'm headed. Because the same Father that knew us before we was formed in the womb, and He predestined us, we don't know what 2025 or 2029 or 2045 looks like. But He does. He does. I love that idea. I like surprises. Positive ones, preferably. Right? Not the other ones where I'm like, dadgummit, here we go again, you know. God, I'm good on the lessons for a little while. We're good. I promise you I'm learning. I'm paying attention. My cell phone's up and I'm not watching. I promise you I'm not on social media. I'm here, brother. You're like, you don't need to strip anything away from me. I'm good. I'm good right now, you know. When you think about it, I want to share one story with you. I just found this scripture. And you want to say, well, what happens, Ryan, when I get through that divorce? Or what happens when I get through that, you know, depression, or when I get through that hard time in a job, or I get through that addiction? Like, is there redemption for me? Like, who am I? Who's my identity after this? Right? I found a scripture that I am over the moon about. And it's in a weird chapter too, because I'll just be honest with you. I have to catch it in 260 because I never go to this book. And then somebody's going to come to me after, like, man, you should go there. It's one of the best books in the Bible. Okay, obviously. But y'all remember when and we're not staying on David. I just want to make this point, move on. Y'all remember when David, he defeated Goliath, right? Y'all know that, right? We're good. Yeah, was he a teenager, right, Randy? Wait, 14, 13, 15, something? Okay. So that was like his first W. You know what I'm saying? That was his first, he put him on the map there, right? And it's funny because nobody, that's it. There's 10,000 books about David and Goliath. Literally 10, right? And that's fine. There's incredible stuff to learn off David. I'm not saying that. That dude was 14 years old. He had to have lived till, I don't know. How old do you think he would? How ish? I have no clue. 80 or something? I don't know, right? Okay, so when he was 14, right? So some of y'all are not 14, right? Say you're 50 or 60 or whatever you are. From 14 to the point you are now, there's been some things happen, hasn't there? There's been some highs and lows, right? There's been some places where you may have said, man, I wish y'all have seen me back in next, I used to it was Sandy told me, he was like, we used to serve how many homeless people every week?
500.
500, in California too. So, that was like one block, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. He lives here now. We can say those things. But right. But he can hang his hat on that deal, right? And you can hang your hat on that deal and assume that you don't have to do anything else the rest of your life, and the blessings are going to come like the waterfall pitcher in a Chinese buffet, right? That's a Mississippi thing. Y'all may not know anything about that. That's real Southern. You have to think about that one. But here's the thing. Y'all remember when we fast forward, right, and he ended up having an affair? Remember, he was up in the balcony and, there's like a supermodel down bathing, and ironically, he made his balcony overlook the baths. Evidently the women's shower, the men's was probably on the backside. And, he had an affair. He got, husband got killed, all that jazz, right? So I would say that he has an issue with porn. He has an issue with lust, right? He was a dog. You read about that dude? Y'all need to read about that dude. You need to read him up. He had 37 men in 2 Samuel. You need to read about those cats. That is like watching 300 or Gladiator 2 and Sparta and Troy and all those movies combined about these guys. They were some, and it tells about who they were. They were some dogs. You got to read about them. They're pretty cool. So he had all these many things. He's slayed all these people. He's done all these many things. But do you ever overcome an addiction? I think so with God, personally. But here's what's amazing. I just want to share this with you. I'm telling you this to give y'all some of y'all need to hear this morning. I think it's absolutely mind-boggling. And write this down. You don't have to flip to it. Write this down. 1 Kings 1. Okay, just write this down. Go back and just read over this one part in the section, okay? Because you may need to have this to share to somebody else to give them encouragement. Like, dude, there's another identity that Christ wants you to embrace. Just wait for it, okay? It may not be next year. It may be years from now. But I want to show you something that can show you your identity can change who you are, who your desires are, who your wants are, who you are as a person. It says, now King David was old and advanced in age, although they convinced him with, although they covered him with bedclothes, he could not get warm. So his servants said to him, now this was David had the affair, y'all remember? Okay. So his servants said to him, let us search for him a young virgin for my lord the king. Y'all, he lost everything last time this happened, guys. His servants, thanks servants. I'm going to search for him a young virgin. CSB version. She is to attend the king and be his caregiver. She is to lie by your side so that you, the Lord King, will get warm. They searched for a beautiful girl throughout the territory of Israel. They found, whatever that name, doesn't sound like a beautiful woman. Abishag, the Shamate. Let's say they found Farrah Fawcett and brought her to the king. The girl was of unsurpassed beauty. Man, you can't be bringing that around here, bro. Right? And she became the king's caregiver. She attended to him, but he was not intimate with her. When? And why do I share that with you this morning? That is trauma to triumph. You say, why is that? Who knows that wasn't another trial? He's old, but he's still breathing. Who knows that wasn't another test? So this guy's cold. They're putting her there really just to keep him warm. And they put this beautiful virgin by him, keep him warm. It says he wasn't even studying it. He wasn't even intimate with her. That's huge to me. Like I've never heard that scripture. I don't know how I come across it, to be honest with you. God must have wanted me to find it to share it this morning with you, because I'm telling you of who you are today and who knew Ryan Casabella for 40 years prior to where I transitioned. They don't know Ryan Casabella today. They don't know Kevin today. They don't know Vladimir today. They don't know Mark. They don't know Brian. They don't know Mark. You know what I'm saying? So he says, well, I remember when. I'm like, bro, you say it one more time, I'm going to punch your teeth in. Like that, you can ask my wife. That's one thing that irritates me. And what's funny, a lot of times when I get around my family, they'll say stuff like that. And my kids, they'll say stuff like that. They'll say, boy, when Ryan, I'm like, dude, I'm 43 years old. Why are you talking about when I was 15? You know what I'm saying? Or 17. Y'all may have that happen when you get around your family. I don't know. Well, man, Ryan, he used to drink. I'm like, bro, I ain't drank 7 years. Why are you talking about that? But then I realized that you may enjoy me better when I did. Maybe it made us feel less conviction about who we are as people. I don't know. Right? But I'm telling you guys, if you've overcame a trauma or you went through a trial, David's a prime example of you can have a new identity and you can become triumphant in something at one time ruined you. And you don't have to hold on to that identity. That's why I believe the same as when Paul had conversion at Damascus Road in Acts 9, okay? It says he immediately had the scales removed from his eyes. And at that moment, he was a new person. When I received God, I'm going to tell you, like, I was like, hey, like, this seems like a pretty good option. The road I went thus far has not really been that great. And then when I quit my addiction, I knew it was going to be a very long road, because the problem with sin is it compounds. So once we go down the road of like me for drinking, it started, all these other things started compounding on top of it, right? I couldn't be on social media. I wasn't on social media for over 4 years. Why? Because I told you, I added females on there, and it devastated my wife. So I got off all social media. The only reason I got back on it was for stuff like this, so I could meet, like, you know, do this stuff. There was financially stupid decisions. There was just, I wasn't a great father. I wasn't a great husband. I mean, it's just all these things. They started compounding, right? But once the transformation happened, I'm now a new person, and that's why I want to encourage you today. And then you need to know this word too, because it's a word of encouragement for a friend of yours or a brother, somebody's going through a hard time. You can say, y'all. You can say it's a great walk-in thing. Yeah, you remember David and Goliath, don't you? Yeah, Dave. Yeah, you got to know that story. Even every unbeliever knows the story, right? And then you can literally highlight these key points and say, hey, you know, he had an affair and he lost it. Really? Oh yeah, man. Yeah, cool. Well, golly, whatever happened to him? Well, he kept trucking. God forgave him. He lost the kid and lost some stuff along the way. But you know what? God renewed him, because that's what God does. He gives us stuff back after he teaches us a lesson, right? But you know, at the end, man, he had maybe his last trial to go through. And his servants put this in front of him. He was able to, no, that ain't me no more. That's why I could go sit at a bar and I ain't twitching. I'm not saying everybody do that, but I'm spiritually mature to be able to do that now, right? I'll witness to people at the bar. I've done it. I know some people in here's done it. When you look at the story of Joseph in this thing in Genesis 37, it says that he was betrayed by his brothers, which we all know this. He was served in slavery, falsely accused on a crime, and in prison. This guy had everything in the world to go through, but despite his suffering, Joseph trusted God's plan. His faithfulness eventually led him to become a powerful leader in Egypt, where he saved countless lives through a famine. Moses, that dude was raised by the enemy, right? Because all the babies were getting killed, remember? So they put Moses in a basket and pushed him down the river. Ironically, who picked him up? Pharaoh's daughter, The enemy's daughter? He was being raised by the enemy's daughter. How crazy is that? He said, man, I didn't have a good upbringing. Yeah, Moses didn't either. Look what he did. Right? Because then when he ended up murdering somebody, but it was an enemy, so maybe, I don't know, maybe it's okay, I don't know. But when that switch happened, when that transformation happened, like it happened. Right? And he couldn't speak well. He ended up having a stuttering problem, right? And that's why they brought Aaron in. It's like he's not here today. I'm not going to say his name. But I said, hey, I want you to share your testimony. He said, man, I got a stuttering problem. I said, hey, you know what? Moses did too. He was like, oh man, you jerk. I said, yeah. But you look at the things that he overcame. David, we talked about him. There's tons of stuff there to do. The thing about David is I don't want us to get hung up on this one highlight film. He didn't peak when he was 14. Even though we all think he did. He peaked in this moment in 2 Kings. Because that's a summary of his whole entire life of how he transformed every desire, personal desire, worldly desire, genetically, everything. To me, he overcame it in that moment when he had that beside him. And he's like, no, I'm good, bro. Hey, I'd be like, can you get a little thicker? I need a little bit more warmth back here. Like I don't need a supermodel back here. I need somebody to get me warm. When you look into Job, we talked about Job. He lost everything. Y'all read about Job. But don't get hung up on Job either. Some people are like, man, we study Job, man. What we do, we subconsciously read about people that are going through bad stuff because it makes us feel good, because we don't feel alone. Does that make sense? Man, I know I talked so-and-so, and it's just, man, he's going through it too. And I'm like, dude, you sound like Wilbur off Winnie the Pooh. Yeah, donkey. Isn't it Wilbur? Eeyore. Same name. No offense if you have either one of those names. Yeah. But we get into that Eeyore mentality, and then we find people that have that same kind of, that poor pitiful me, just that doom and gloomy, whatever, and then we feel okay about it because he's going, it's just Job, that dude went through it and God gave him 10 times more than what he had before. Paul, you couldn't find a more terrible person than this cat. When you read about Peter, extreme ADHD, Peter, who's going to walk out to? I'll walk out there. Don't touch, cutting ears, denying God. You're not going to deny me. I won't deny. I mean, he can't stop talking or acting, right? Just calm down, Peter. Come on. But he used Peter. Peter gave up everything. He was married because Matthew 14, I think. His wife had been healed. He was a fisherman. He had a life. He had everything. He gave it up all and took off and served for Jesus to be a disciple. When you look at this, guys, I want to share some encouragement with you. In Matthew 7, it talks about, narrow is the road and few will find it, broad is the way, and y'all know that scripture, Matthew 7. And we used to take confidence in that as a Christian because we're like, well, I'm telling you, I stay on the narrow road and da-da-da. I'm like, okay, that's cool. But the majority of people that we're going to interact in our life, they don't even know what the narrow road is. Like they're looking for you for direction. Your life, your actions, your identity is a road marker to get them there. You're a physical way to say, John, I want to follow that guy right there. I like his life. Like I've talked to that guy. He's authentic. He's good. Like, what's he doing that I'm not doing? What does he have I don't have? Right? We are a roadmap for that. Matthew 7, you'll read into that. And then the last thing is in Isaiah 54:17, it tells us that no weapon formed against us shall succeed. There's nothing that can come against you that you cannot overcome, you cannot accomplish. You may just be around the wrong people. You may be influenced. by the wrong things. That could be music, that could be TV. I told you, you can watch that Conor McGregor documentary. I told you, one of the biggest fights me and Lindsay got into, I watched it, I binged it. That's a couple episodes. And like, she come home and she said something, I was like, what'd you say? And she was like, you know what I'm saying? She's like, what's going on? I'm like, what do you mean what's going on? You know what I'm saying? Like, okay, psycho, right? But you know what I'm saying? You listen to certain music or you around certain people and they's cussing like crazy and all this other stuff, and you next thing you know you cussing and you're like, I don't think there's nothing wrong with cussing. I'm like, well, no, you probably don't see anything wrong with cussing because everybody hanging out was cussing. You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying anything's wrong. That ain't my part. That's your part. Read the Bible. Figure it out. But same with drinking. You know, I don't see anything wrong with drinking. I don't care if you do. I mean, it's a you thing. That's a you and God thing. I'm not sitting here to cash you on it. That's all. I can tell you what was terrible when I was drinking really bad. I was at the Mexican restaurant before we moved up here, and I had me a probably Budweiser. I'm not going to tell you what I had because it sounds more feminine. I had a Budweiser. Yeah, I think I had shots of moonshine in it, raw corn moonshine. You know, it's probably spitting on the floor and stuff in there, you know. But you know, the booths are real tall. You couldn't see around it right, and Brother Jeff and Brother Craig was at the other booth behind me, and they got up and was going out to pay, and I was sitting there by myself, so I couldn't pay like it's Cody's, you know, anything like. And I was like, holy crap! And I'm sitting there, and then you know, and I'm leading a group. Again, it's each its own. To me, it was the thing, and I was like, oh gosh. And they were like, oh, hey Ryan, how are you doing? I was like, Well, if I didn't think something was wrong with it, I wouldn't have had that feeling. Just say it. But again, I'm not. That's a y'all thing. That's between you and God. When we read into this, guys, I speak these. I share these scriptures with you because I want you to have comfort. Okay, I want you to have comfort that just like that transformation that happened in David's life, you're not defined by a moment. We have great ones and bad ones, right? It's that life. It's the entire life. We're starting this new year. We're going to step it up in here. Okay? I'm going to challenge you. I want you to challenge me because when you get challenged and I get challenged, I want us to find people that we need to invest into. There's a couple of people in here right now that need mentors. I can't be 20 mentors, right? If you're wanting to do that, you need to let me know. What does mentor mean? I don't know, a new friend. You feel me? You don't have to quote the Bible because they probably don't want to hang out with you because nobody likes somebody trying to be too smart, right? But we have to challenge ourselves this year because I'm telling you, your blessings in your life will blow up when you start putting time and energy in other people. I'm telling you. When you got nothing to receive from it, 400 or 500 homeless people, when you got nothing to receive from it, God's going to be like, I got you, bro. I got you. There's guys in here that need you. And there's a lot more out there that need all of us. And we're going to go get them this year. I'm just telling you, we're going to go get them this year. We're going to go get them. They're the guys that nobody looks at or stares at or they say they're good. We don't want you to be good, bro. We want you to be great. We want you to be great. That's what we want you to be. That's what we want. Build an army. We got to know that triumph can come from trauma. Who you were is not who you are, and it's dang sure not who God wants you to be. We don't know where He wants you to be. Even Robbie is incredible. I love Robbie to death. He's not even scratched the surface of where God's going to do for him his next however many years you know what I'm saying? And that's the excitement we have about who we serve. I know how far I can get on my own. I peaked there. Now it's time for me to let go and let God.